He's never fought us. Not us united.
My favorite moment in the entire... Maybe I should complicate this before I start speaking here. Welcome to Comics League. I'm Jared, and I'm here with Jheat. What's up, dude?
What's up?
So today we're going to do a little thought experiment that I thought of. It's no secret that I love the new 52 Superman, and we've talked about how it was a mistake to kill him. You could not necessarily a mistake to bring in the post-crisis Superman, but necessarily a mistake to kill him and then merge him. So what we're gonna do is war game what would have happened had he not died. So I figure our starting point is before the whole Superman is sick storyline where he says I'm dying. So we're gonna essentially decanonize that storyline.
Huh. Okay. How will we go about it?
Or we could do that and then it actually doesn't. Actually, I have it. So the storyline plays out as usual. Here's how we're going to start. So the death storyline plays out as usual up until the very end. But before he explodes, the Greek gods show up, chiefly Apollo, because Apollo's powered by sunlight. And then he basically says, okay, you're a good warrior. You've earned my cousin's heart. You know what? And he just blasts Superman with a lot of sunlight. Because in Power Couple, the Superman Wonder Woman comic, which is fantastic, by the way, he blasted Superman with sunlight, and it essentially supercharged his power. So it wouldn't be necessarily out of the question for that to be a way to essentially heal him of his ailments.
Interesting.
Next, and then from there we would get, I would say, would we do okay, so where do you think it would go from here?
From here, after being supercharged by Apollo, you would essentially have two Supermen. You would have the Lois and Clark series where post-crisis Superman is with the Daily Planet doing his own thing. And then you would essentially split Action Comic and Superman comic into two books.
Yeah, that would actually work really well. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
And you would have two different perspectives. And to avoid fan confusion or brand confusion in this case, just have the two Clarks interact and meet in the first arc. Okay, I've been here for a couple years. I've observed your history in this new timeline. I already talked to Barry about it. It's fine. You really have gone through a lot in your adolescence before becoming Superman. I'm sorry you lost Ma and Pa, but you can't act like this. This is not the way to be. You're just making a narc out of yourself.
Yeah, and essentially this Superman would act as more of a mentor for the new 52 Superman. Now, I wouldn't say at the end of this new R Superman, I'm going to call him a new 52 R Superman, or I don't say turn R Superman to Christopher Reeves or anything like that, but I was saying he's a little more aligned with, well, at least post-crisis Superman. In other words, he's a little more positive. Actually, at that point, he was pretty much at that level, but a little more. And we would have essentially a book that's like the wedding of Superman and Wonder Woman, because that would sell out the yin yang. You saw how well the falsely advertised Batman Catwoman wedding issue sold. You notice I emphasize falsely advertised.
I would say that's more of an editorial decision because, I mean, come on, a major status quo change like that, because you already have, it could work, but you would alienate the new fans who only see Batman as this edgy loner.
Not necessarily. I mean, if it was written well, because up to that point, say what you want about Tom King's writing, he did do a good job of establishing the, okay, I don't want to say codependent relationship, but I guess I will, between Batman and Catwoman. They need each other. So I think at that point, you could have gotten away with it. Plus, it's an interesting status quo change for Batman. No one says it has to last, but it'll be an interesting thing to try out and see if it's popular.
Oh, definitely.
Because they've danced around that for years. But anyway, so and then eventually we would get the daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman, that's Donna Troy. We don't have the Hippolyta remains being turned into Donna Troy. No, that's the daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman. Then we can like time jump 5 years and have her being mentored by Damian and John. That's for you, Tevia.
Okay, this is where it gets weird because you essentially have an entire mismatch of generation. Now, a lot of this was just mismanagement of the New 52 in of itself, but a younger Donna being mentored on a. Would this be in a team setting, or would this just be a new Trinity with Damian, John, and Donna?
That'd be interesting. A new Trinity. That'd be cool.
No, I'm genuinely asking.
Would it be a new Trinity? I mean, which do you think would be the best option?
Because you already had the Dark Trinity with Red Hood, Artemis, and Bizarro.
Good point. Maybe she joins the Titans. I mean, the Teen Titans, and essentially that's how she's like mentored on how to be a hero.
Yeah, and definitely, and as much as I loathe this, the Adam Glass run where you had Roundhouse, I think his name was, basically victim mentality about how his twin sister died. First, okay, I will never downplay trauma, but just let me run you by this and let me make sure this makes sense. You essentially blame this hero for you yourself cutting through an alleyway, Ace Chemicals of all places, just so you could rush home to play video games before doing your homework, and are surprised you and your sister were caught in the blast, and your only saving grace is that your metagene manifested and hers didn't. Why victim blame Robin for your stupid decision?
True. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. As was a lot of the Adam Glass run, but that's besides the point. But yeah. So essentially, she would be on the Teen Titans. Now, how powerful would she be? Because she is the daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman.
The best comparison would be, I want to say Lana from the Dark Knight. Laura, thank you. From the Dark Knight Strikes Again.
I would say that. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
And you would have essentially Laura and John. The only difference is they're half siblings. Okay, that would just be the weirdest thing. Laura and John, because in the All-Star verse or Dark Knight Rises verse.
Please don't call it the All-Star verse.
The Dark Knight verse. Okay, the Dark Knight verse. They are genuine brother and sister. Whereas in the main continuity, if this were to happen, they would essentially be half siblings from two different timelines, and it's a future Trunks kid Trunks situation. It's just weird.
True.
It's freaking weird. But
we're in this position. We essentially have to try and make the most of it.
Yeah, and I just feel like Laura would not get along. She would have that early. I'm not going to say she would be self-entitled, but she would definitely be arrogant.
And but here's the thing, not as arrogant as Laura is in like Golden Child. Absolutely.
Oh God, no. Let's make that perfectly clear. This version of Laura would not be borderline, would not be essentially female Homelander. She was female
Homelander. That's a good analogy. I never thought of that. That's nice.
But seriously, but her and Damian would not get. Oh God, I think we just fell down the rabbit hole. What if this were to happen? Could you imagine the shippers would pair her with Damian?
Oh my gosh. We just opened like a can of worms, dude.
We cannot undo this.
We cannot. We just gave this to the internet. Oh no.
Oh
no.
Oh God.
No, but, there are people who are going to ship Laura and John.
Oh no. We home Alabama.
We're so does multiverse count? That's the hard-hitting questions we have to answer on this show.
Tell that to Ivan Zufrosh and Nightstar from Kingdom Come.
Yeah, exactly. But so that's basically where I would take that. Now, in terms of where the story would be building toward, because obviously we would build to some big event, I would say a final confrontation with Darkseid, because that way you kind of bookend the story, because remember, he was the first villain in the New 52, so it'd be cool to like end, if we were to end with a complete reboot again, end with a Darkseid threat.
Definitely, but would this be a death of Superman, but with Darkseid instead of Doomsday, or would just
No. To be clear, we're not killing New 52 to Superman.
just wanted to make that clear?
Yeah. Now, a big mistake I think they did with their Doomsday event they did in the New 52 was not doing the basic death of Superman storyline, but with Superman and Wonder Woman, because you kind of had you had it set up. Everyone assumed you were going to kill Superman, and you could have had like, how would Wonder Woman react to Superman? Because we know how Lois Lane would react, but how is someone that's super powered react to that? Would that be any different? Would Wonder Woman like retreat from being a superhero temporarily if she lost Superman?
Well, Artemis was in the picture because this was in transition to Rebirth. So who's to say this wouldn't be a callback to the '90s where Diana would step down from the mantle and Artemis would take over for a bit?
Yeah, she would step down and like just because of grief, and then he just shows up, and then we could have like the 4 Supermen show up again.
Let's not go too far. Let's not go too far.
By the way, if you want to see a great video where everyone on Superman, find the Max Landis video, The Death and Return of Superman. He dramatically recreates the storyline and then explains how it's stupid. It's so funny. But
yeah, the Death and Return of Superman was a sales boost gone bad in context.
Yeah, because when he returned, the sales for Action Comics plummeted. Because everyone was like, you killed him, but you brought him back. That's so cheap. But anyway, that's not what this video is. So I would plug into, I would essentially, so let's say we don't kill him and don't do a Death of Superman storyline, because that would be like, okay. What we could have is the post-crisis Superman dying. In other words, he gives his life to conquer Darkseid permanently.
Oh, Infinite Crisis callback.
Yeah, kind of do that. And he goes, now you're ready. Now you're essentially, because obviously they have a double team fight against Darkseid, kind of like in Infinite Crisis. And then the post-crisis Superman dies. He goes, now you are Superman. You have my blessing to wear this crest.
And I just feel like at that point, New 52, let's just say Kal-El, because I feel like
we'll say Kal-El.
Yeah, Kal-El. I feel like at this point he wouldn't be Christopher Reeves or even DCAU Superman.
He'd be Henry Cavill, essentially.
He'd be Henry Cavill, to where Henry Cavill's a step up because Henry Cavill wasn't a jackass, but that's a separate.
52 was not a jackass. I don't know where you get that.
Oh, come on!
How is he a jackass?
Let's see. Overly brooding, angsty. Might as well have been superpowered Batman. They killed off the Kents in an attempt to justify his new attitude. Grant Morrison's Action Comics.
Here's the thing. Oh, it was kind of funny because I got for my birthday a couple of trades of the new 52 Superman run by George Perez and then Greg Pak. When you read that, he is pretty much the Superman. So I'm like, man, Grant Morrison is the reason why everyone thinks he's brooding.
Pretty much.
Because when you read like the George Perez run, RIP, he's pretty much Superman, except younger, but still like not brooding or anything like that. So I'm like, are you kidding me, Morrison? Go back to having Green Lantern punch God. But anyway, so essentially we were sort of end on an Infinite Crisis, but nowhere near as brutal and oftentimes stupid, like having Superboy Prime punch reality. That doesn't happen.
I agree.
What we could do is that, so I've said that you really can't kill Darkseid, or like when you kill him, it creates like a black hole. That's how post-crisis Supes dies. He dies to seal up the black hole. Or no, he doesn't die. He just goes into the black hole to seal it, and then it closes. So he's not dead. He's like, because what happened to Kal-El in the Superman Doomed is he went into a black hole. But
wouldn't that be like a retread? I get what you're coming from, but in context to the New 52 storylines leading up to this point, that would kind of feel like a retread.
True. But I'm just saying, because fans are going to freak out if we kill post-crisis Superman. Even though it would be a nice send-off to that version of the character, saying we're moving on from that version. Actually, you know what? Let's kill him. He'll die, and we could actually do it for fun. Recreate the image of him like lying in the rubble of Metropolis with Doomsday, but have it be like Darkseid instead of Doomsday. Plus,
Okay. How would we set the stage? Is Darkseid looking for the anti-life equation, or is Darkseid just seizing another revenge campaign on Earth?
well, because at this point, Darkseid was being raised by Grail. Remember, he was the baby. So
Oh yeah.
what we could do is like Grail raised him, so sort of. Okay, so Grail essentially wants revenge against like a Wonder Woman and such, because I believe she was very hostile to Wonder Woman in the Wonder Woman runs at that point.
Okay.
So she raises Darkseid to hate the Justice League, and then he like regains his memories and stuff, and said, "You have humiliated me for the last time, Kal-El," and then he just goes straight for the Justice League. Because remember,
and Kal-El just gets his butt kicked. Like he can't even touch this guy. Because Darkseid usually in most storylines, Darkseid makes a deal with the Guardians, Zeus, and Highfather, and the Quintessence. Like, okay, I'm gonna respect the cosmic balance, but I'm gonna still do my own thing. You stay out of my way, I stay out of yours.
yeah.
But in a situation where Darkseid is purely pissed off, F the balance, I want this Kryptonian dead.
Yeah. I want this reality dead. This one, because this repeatedly humiliated Darkseid.
Yeah, he would target the New 52 reality out of pure ego, and this would go and here's what I would do. I would do like similar to what happened with Jason and Death of the Family, a fan poll. I would give the older fans a chance here. I would have one or two endings. One, everyone's slaughtered, everyone loses, and then Barry creates another flashpoint and wipes the reality.
Like Apocalypse War.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Or the good ending where everyone's able to hold their own and then push them back, but at the cost of post-crisis Superman sacrificing himself.
And we'll be clear that he goes out like a champ. He doesn't go down like in one punch. No, he puts up a fight.
And how would that even work? Like Kal-El, like John resenting Kal-El for the death of his father, and I'm like, okay.
Yes, and we could have like, let's say we have Superman and Wonder Woman adopting. Well, actually, no, because Lois would still be alive, unfortunately. But Lois would still be alive. And she would essentially she would try and essentially assuage John, saying, no, it wasn't Kal-El's fault. But again, John would grow up to resent Superman, and maybe he could be an antagonist in a later storyline.
That's pushing it.
Call it the War of the Supermen.
I see where you're going with, but that might as well be like the Tornado Twins, where they resent Barry for literally dying and disappearing into the Speed Force for 20 years. You might as well be ripping off the Tornado Twins.
All right. But how would you handle John in this scenario?
He would be angry. He would pick a fight with Kal-El a couple times. And then Damian and Donna like, man, don't do this. No amount of pouting or super tantrums is going to bring your dad back. Clark did what he had to do. You're better than this.
That's excellent. What it would be. Yeah, that works. I like that. Because that way you also clarify that essentially these three are the Trinity, but we're not going to formally call them the Trinity yet, the young Trinity, but that's essentially what they are. Yeah, essentially.
Oh, I just thought about this. I would feel like because Donna, this young version of Donna would have developed a crush on Damian by this point, Damian would never act on out of respect for John and Kal-El. But I feel like if you actually factor this into the Glass run, if you read that series, you know how a certain 4,000-year-old genie was pining for Damian.
I never read the Glass run.
Okay, just snip through the Glass run. Only go for the first couple of issues. You'll know what I'm talking about. But Tevia knows what I'm talking about. But essentially, you have Wonder Girl versus a genie.
Oh wow! But dude, this is how we do Wonder Bat. It's these two.
Hey, it's better than Damian and Cassie. At least this way, Tim doesn't get cucked in two continuities.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. So there you go. Cassie's with Superboy, I think.
No, okay. I'm gonna just go ahead and explain this. In the Jeff Johns notorious 2003 run, they were together for a while. Connor died in Infinite Crisis. In an act of grief, rebound with Tim. And somehow Shippers used this to justify that Tim had a man crush on Connor. I don't see it. I think it was just a solid bromance. But to make it a long story short, it was a rebound relationship, lasted about a year, broke it off, and then around the time Damian gets dumped onto the Titans for those 3 issues, Cassie breaks up with Connor. She doesn't confess to what happened, but she ultimately breaks it off.
I thought they got back together, though. She shows up on the farm and they have lunch and stuff.
They reconciled, but they never officially got back together. Because then you have
They kissed.
the Titans of Tomorrow story. They're teenagers. They're gonna at least have a smooch. So, but this led to the Titans of Tomorrow storyline where
They
they met
say, I love you. What are you talking about here?
I said they reconciled. I don't know for sure if they officially dated because this was bleeding into the New 52 and this would get wiped anyway. I could be wrong, but at the very least they reconciled.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
And I just feel like that Tim should have been called out for that. Like, you had the solid bromance. You started a revamp of the Titans, Young Justice. I don't care if it's a rebound. You still shacked with Cassie, and you had no repercussions of that.
I know. That's a little bit of a character assassination moment right there.
Yeah, Tim got off. Editorial aside, Tim got off too easy, in my opinion.
Yeah, essentially. So, essentially, we would have that, and then I would say maybe okay. So at this point, where should we take the story? So post-crisis, Superman is dead. They have a monument and everything to his honor. They could essentially have the New 52 version of that statue with him on the eagle. Pretty
much. Or I would do the Man of Tomorrow statue they did at the tail end of Infinite Crisis. Mm-hmm. I mean, Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you know who could also be like a confidant and like a comfort is Kara, because she exists in this universe too.
Yeah, but didn't we have Lana Lang as Power Woman in this universe too?
Superwoman, yeah, kind of. And then Lois Lane in this universe became a Superwoman.
For a time. Like, didn't that get undone almost immediately?
But here's the thing. That wouldn't happen in our universe. It's the same thing with Lana, because they got their powers because they were near New 52 Superman when he exploded. So since we didn't do the explosion, that wouldn't happen.
But they were in the near Clark when he got beamed by Apollo. And I could have worded that better. Don't worry, we're going to edit that out.
No, I'm keeping that in. That probably is going to be your new intro.
I would rather have Flame On.
Well, Flame On is just really good. But anyway, yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, but would the residual like God's sunlight somehow give them powers?
To an extent, like. Okay, remember Robin Omega, where Robin temporarily got superpowers due to exposure from the Omega Sanction and the Chaos Shard.
He did?
Yes. When Damian first got brought back, he had superpowers.
Oh, wow.
It was mostly in the Justice League books. It lasted for like 3 issues. It was a byproduct of the MacGuffin they used to bring him back. He got combined with the Omega Sanction. He got superpowers for the in-universe equivalent of a week, and he burned them out within half that time.
Wow.
I feel like because you didn't really have a New 52 Superboy, they tried to give that role to Damian because you're already bringing him back anyway. Yeah, it just didn't work. I mean,
that was definitely not Superboy in the Teen Titans book. Oh gosh,
we don't talk about that run.
We don't talk. I have a couple of trades of that run, and I'm like, why are they in Tron suits?
Hey, at least Artemis made her Artemis from Young Justice made her canonical debut in that book.
Okay, that's fine, but still not that good. But at least tell me say what you want about the New 52. It at least gave Red Hood an origin that made sense.
Oh yeah, because Red Hood, Jason was in free fall after Batman and Robin and Convergence. Yeah, that was one of the new. Okay, you want to know 5 highlight characters that benefited from the New 52?
Who?
Aquaman, Red Hood, Batman with Court of Owls. Definitely Wonder Woman, because there were some good stories in there.
Oh yes, she actually had a good run.
It was mediocre, but it was
compared to her other stuff.
George Rucka, George Perez,
Rucka and Perez. Besides those two,
okay, it was slightly above mediocre. Let's compromise there.
Thank you.
Okay, slightly above mediocre, and I wanted. Okay, Superman was a mess. Titans was a mess.
Oh, I got it. Here's a book, Justice League. That benefited.
Okay, Justice League was a blank slate, but I'll give you that. Justice League was a blank slate.
And Green Lantern just got too confusing because you're telling me that Blackest Night happened in the New 52 universe, even though a lot of the key characters don't exist.
1, that was a very solid run. 2, I believe this was around the time where EBS was still contracted with DC.
He was still there.
He was still contracted with them. So funny how history repeats itself, because you have
in the Omnibus at the very end of the third one, there's like a thank you note by Jeff Johns for like reading, and it's a recent Omnibus, and they kept in the thank you EVS thing.
Yeah, they have to live with that.
But
as I was saying, because you essentially had a similar situation with Bendis. They couldn't undo John's de-aging because Bendis was still contracted.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing this big campaign where they're de-Bendising DC, as fans like to call it, but they can't because Tom Taylor. Okay, I'm not saying all that. I mean, I feel like all that
they
extra.
Could.
They could. It would just piss people off, but they could.
Well, no, because what they could say is this is the John of Earth 3, and he wants to be a good guy, but the John that we all like is still on Earth 3, essentially, and 12 years old.
Yeah, but do you really think editorial has the balls to do that?
No, they won't do that. I'm just saying it's actually pretty simple. I'm just saying it's possible for them to do it. It's very simple, but they won't do it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the Adventures of John Kent book would really have to tank because that's essentially just a pity series out the door, and the character's just going to get shelved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're not going to see John Kent for a while, except maybe in Action Comics.
The only way to save, I'm not saying remove the Super Twins from War World, but as you were saying, the only way to save John Kent as a character and brand is if you just say, okay, it was a mix-up from Earth 3. As you were saying, that this was the John from Earth 3. It would be a bit contrived if not executed well, but that would be the best case scenario with this new miniseries.
Yeah, because let's face it, after the age up, there's not a lot of like fan embracing of this John Kent as DC would like.
And Tom Taylor did not add any favors.
Oh, he doesn't do that at all. Are you kidding me? And you're openly antagonistic to fans. I'm sorry, dude. You're not gonna have fans on your side, dude.
Tom Taylor is a hack who got mad for being called out. Mm-hmm. I get it. Bendis did all this. You were just doing editorial, trying to get a publicity stunt, and the 5G initiative. DC's all new, all different. I get it. But at the very least, you could have de-aged John back and have him have these inquiries in it and apply this development organically. Or, at the very least, not pair him with your degenerate self-insert, despite the fact that John has the mentality of a preteen. Am I the only one still taking that into account?
Who, by the way, she paired him with someone that's arguably a domestic terrorist.
Who dyes his hair with pink kryptonite? I still claim that. Until I hear otherwise, that is still my headcanon.
That's my headcanon. That's pink kryptonite, and he's using that to keep John docile.
We might get canceled for this, but it was worth
but that would be hilarious if I was writing that book. That's be the first thing I'd retcon in, and then he washed his hair, the pink comes out, and John's like, "The hell am I doing here?"
Oh man.
Yeah, that'd be essentially if I ran DC, I would essentially do everything that I've always wanted to do, which is like de-age John, because I know that would actually do really well. Bring back the new 52, but essentially don't bring it back totally because there were some like messes in there. Bring it back and clean up the continuity and make that the ultimate universe for DC.
Definitely.
You would still have to clean it up. Don't get me wrong, but you would have. But let me put it this way: the new 52 was very salvageable. They could have salvaged it, but instead of just eliminating everything.
Didn't Convergence try to fix that by splitting New 52 into its own reality, and everyone just forgot about it?
We still stayed in that reality. That's the problem, and we're still listed as Earth 0. That was the issue.
Yeah, and the less said about Future's End, the better.
Yeah, exactly. The less said about that supreme waste of time.
Wait, which is worse, Ultimatum or Future's End?
Oh man, that is honestly a tough choice because both of them are horrible. One because it's absolutely disgusting, and another because it makes no sense. I'll take if I have to pick one to read, I'm going to pick the one that makes no sense because I don't want to see Blob eating Wasp.
Why did you have? I respect your brand being PG-13, but there are so many innuendos in that sentence.
Well, I mean, actually, literally eating wasp. Let me put it that way. Literally eating wasp. Like
If Nick was
cannibalism.
here, he would troll the hell out of you.
If Nick were here, he'd be like getting a middle claw right about now. But that's my point. There is like essentially, I would rather read the because when you think about it, the plot of Future's End, the base plot actually sounds pretty cool. But when they bring in all the tie-ins and like stretch it out, that's when it really, I think, falls.
Felt like I was reading the Clone Saga.
Yeah. You know what's bad? By the way, the Clone Saga has 5 omnibuy. You know that's bad. You know your story is a little too bloated when you have 5 of those are the story.
I just feel like that the story got away with them. But with Tom, this is all I'm going to say about Tom Taylor. Dark Knights of Steel, good. Injustice, relatively decent for a video game tie-in comic. Dark Knights of Steel, Deceased, solid. But he cannot write an ongoing main continuity story to save his life.
No, he cannot. He absolutely cannot. I would put him. Do whatever you want in Elseworlds. Do it. You can even take this John Kent and just say all the stories that were John Kent are in Elseworlds, and there you go. You're done. I would also tell Philip Kennedy Johnson, stop making Superman kinky.
Okay, you are not going to let that go from issue 1050.
No, I'm not.
Sometimes you have to spice things up, but that doesn't mean we don't have to see it. I agree with you. That doesn't mean we actually
don't have to see it. We don't have to see it at all. Don't see it. Don't do it. Don't show it. Don't allude to it. You're done.
Seriously, I feel like the Comics Code Authority has become even more lax than they were when we were coming into comics.
Back in the Comics Code Authority.
Wait, it disbanded? Hold on. When did the Comics Code? But don't they have to have some guideline of censorship. I mean, this is going to teenagers. Well, on average.
Ending January 2011.
Huh.
There is no Comics Code Authority, exactly, because if it did, this would never have passed.
That is also true.
Yeah, that's why that's why I made my Twitter post about it. And like I said, this is accessible by children. And you're doing that. It'd be another thing if it's a Black Label book, because that's intended toward a more mature audience.
You can get away with something like that on a Black Label book.
That they almost had Batman's you-know-what on.
They were going to censor it anyway. That was a publicity stunt.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, apparently also there was, as Elseworld, as a Black Label book, they were going to re-release The Killing Joke, but with the deleted content that shows Barbara Gordon actually being violated by the Joker and Batman actually killing the Joker in that story.
I see that version being for the sake of catharsis if you've actually read the original. Like if you do feel frustrated from all the ambiguousness, you read that alternate version for the sake of personal catharsis. Mm-hmm. But I would not see that as the definitive version of The Killing Joke.
No, you don't. You have to see it as the definitive. You could have seen it as again an Elseworlds book, but in other words, they were going to release like the complete book there. Which that would have been actually pretty interesting. Not cool, interesting, but yeah. I mean, you could get away with that in an Elseworlds book, in a Black Label book, but I don't want that in the book that's accessible by children. Well, a little more that's marketed toward children, because let me put it this way: DC goes for all ages, but ultimately, kids are also going to want to read Superman.
And that's why they keep losing to manga, because with manga, anime and manga, you got variety in all genres. You can read whatever you want to varying degrees of depravity, but that's a separate conversation.
Oh, and by the way, if you have to show kinkiness to revitalize the Clark and Lois relationship, maybe it's just a crappy relationship. There you go. I have to put in my annual Lois Lane dig.
Come on, man. That was a little on the nose.
It's true, though. If you have to resort to that, maybe there's a problem with the relationship.
I mean, all you have to do is give Lois maybe a steel space suit or something like that. Because there are ways to get around the whole damsel motif. There are ways around it. Even you've admitted there are ways around it.
But DC's not going to do it because the fans will freak out. because guess what? They tried to do that. They had that Lois Lane book by Greg Rucka, where she was an investigative journalist investigating the multiverse, and fans didn't like it because I think they like Superman staying the same it's always been.
I just feel like, yeah, if it's something I feel like a lot of this came from the Lois and Clark show, which really was just a promotional piece for them getting married. But I feel like a lot of that carried over because let's be honest, that show had a lot of Christopher Reeves vibes in their core dynamic.
Oh yeah,
a lot. Not even so much campy, but definitely golden age.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah. But what I'm saying is that 100% DC could wow me and release a storyline where I'm like, okay, and do a run where I'm like, okay, I can see that. But ultimately, it's just the same story over and over again. And I don't care if Lois Lane is in danger because I know, okay, Superman's going to save her. That's actually crappy storytelling. I'm sorry. That's what they tell you not to do. You have no stakes then, so I don't care.
All right, how about this? The editorial would never have the balls to do this, but a main continuity story where Lois dies.
That's what I think they should do. And by the way, if she died, Clark would not turn into Injustice Superman. Just want to say that right there.
Okay, since you've already read that Band-Aid, there were key factors why Superman lost his mind. It wasn't just
you had Wonder Woman corrupting him because that was a more evil Wonder Woman. That was the first key thing. Okay. Second off, you essentially had
Batman preaching on a soapbox and not really being there for him.
Yeah, because main continuity Batman would 100% be like, okay, because he would recognize if he goes crazy, I gotta make sure this dude's okay. So if he goes crazy, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, and I just feel like, okay, for lack of a better term, they just ripped, despite Kevin Conroy's great voice acting, may he rest in peace. I feel like with Injustice, they just ripped off Bad God from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Kind of.
Because that's something only Batman would have done, to where he's just a complete asshole to everyone.
Or The Boys. It's pretty much The Boys.
No, nothing in Injustice will compare to Herogasm, man. Come on, that's a stretch.
No, I'm saying it's a more PG version of The Boys.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
No, yeah, but 100%. I blame Injustice for this because people think that Lois Lane grounds Superman, and that if she's not married to him, he turns evil. And I'm like,
to an extent, but that's a complete overhaul.
I think it's disrespectful to John and Martha Kent because they raised him human.
Yeah, but in most storylines, John and Martha would have already died of old age or natural causes.
But they raised him to never see that as an option. Plus, here's the thing, and again, I bring up this storyline, this part in the Superman Wonder Woman series. Batman goes, you were raised human. You will always see mankind as your home team. You see yourself as a human that happens to have powers. So there you go. He would never. She's not required for him to remain. Because guess why? They did an Elseworld story where this happened. Speaking of Elseworld stories, where Superman actually killed Lois Lane by accident. It was the DC Universe Online Comics tie-in series. He brooded for a second. He mourned. But then he went right back to being Superman.
Yeah, we don't talk about that tie-in comic.
I liked it, but my point is that there's material of Lois Lane dying and Superman being fine. So not fine. He still mourns. I'm not saying he would just go immediately to Wonder Woman. He would mourn, but then he would be like, yeah, I can't afford to sit on the sidelines, and I can't be a dictator. That wouldn't happen.
I would see more so like Kingdom Come, where the anti-heroes are on the rise, mob mentality wins out to the point where Magog is exonerated or not guilty, and Clark just secludes himself in solitude for 10 years. That would be an ideal post-Lois scenario.
That I could see, because also Lois died as a result of that Joker attack. So 100% I could see that happening. And remember, Superman stayed the way when he came back, he essentially was more of the Superman that we recognize. In fact, he was
bitter. He nearly plunged the metahumans into World War III. He was definitely bitter.
He was bitter, but he never I'm going to rule all of you. He never did. In fact, and he never killed anyone. He actually fought. verbally fought Wonder Woman, but when Wonder Woman says, "This is a war, I have to kill them," and he goes, "No, we're not judge, jury, and executioner." There you go.
And even then, that was an arguably more corrupt version of Wonder Woman because she lost her honor. I don't know I don't remember what she lost her honor over. Maybe choosing man's world.
What it was because she was like, her ambassadorship had been taken away because mankind had gotten to the point where it was so screwed up that the Amazons felt she failed her mission.
I mean, that's just the rise of mob mentality and contentment towards supervillains. I don't see that as incompetence on Diana's part. I think she was just making the best out of a bad situation.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's not how the Amazons saw it. But that's kind of why she was more jaded.
True.
But on that note, I think that's a good place to leave it. Drop in the comments how you think the new 52 the storyline would have gone if they hadn't killed Superman.
I have one last question.
Yeah.
If we had this de-aged Donna, daughter of Superman and Wonder Woman, what Titans roster would you want her in?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, the classic one, so you can have that Donna Troy character because she is Donna Troy essentially.
Yeah, but if we're factoring New 52 and all the timeline generation shifts, I just feel like the best scenario would be Damian Wayne Robin, John Kent Superboy as an interim because he hasn't turned 13 yet, Donna Troy Wonder Girl, Wallace West Kid Flash, Amiko Queen, Red Arrow, and I wouldn't have Jen because there's no point in that. Definitely Lobo's daughter. I feel like I could easily make this like a 7-8 Titans roster. I don't think I could be able to condense this to a 6.
But I agree with you with that roster essentially, and maybe the later is Calderon.
Oh, definitely Uncle at some point.
Yeah, he would have to be in there. But yeah, so that's essentially how we think the storyline would go. Drop in the comments if you think how you think that would have gone. And see, Tavia, we kept John Kent in there. Just and you could keep the Super Sons book going. I would in no way touch that. Have Tomasi do his thing. That's fine.
And who knows? Maybe a one-shot issue where Lois Lane goes on a rebound date with Steve Trevor.
Yeah, actually, I could see that one actually working out pretty well.
But ultimately doesn't go through with it, and then Steve Trevor just goes to a bar in shame.
No, and Steve Trevor stalks her now like he stalked Wonder Woman.
Too far, man. Too far.
Don't tell me it wouldn't happen because Steve Trevor has a reputation in this universe.
Well, again, that's a separate stream.
The two comic book characters I hate with a passion are Steve Trevor and Lois Lane.
What about Namor?
I prefer them to Namor. I mean, I prefer Namor to them.
Really? And you always go on about how Namor's a douchebag. Namor's the worst. He's
still entertaining, though.
True.
He's not grating on my very soul as those two are.
That's okay. I can concede that point because Namor is usually the anti-hero or the folly or the asshole in most books and team dynamics, especially the Illuminati.
Which let me put it this way: he's not my favorite. He's my least favorite Marvel character. But if I have to choose between reading his stuff and Lois Lane, Steve Trevor stuff, I'm going to pick his stuff absolutely. Because here's the thing: the storyline that really stole my hatred of Lois Lane was Heroes in Crisis. Because guess what?
A lot of that was Bendis incompetence, man. You got to let that go.
It wasn't Bendis. It was Tom King. But here's why. So she receives a USB drive that has like all the confessions of all the people in Sanctuary. She goes to Clark, and Clark says, "You can't publish this because there is personal information of superheroes." Then she goes, "But it's a story," and then she does it anyway. Because conceivably, she could have exposed Clark's secrets, Bruce's secrets, Diana's secrets. And I'm like, you are a horrible person.
Tom King was commentating, not only trying to make a trauma-centric story, but also commentating on the sleaze of and biases of journalism.
He succeeded, but he that book sealed it. And that she will betray anyone she has to, including her husband. Because and that's another thing I prefer Wonder Woman for. She would never do that. Absolutely not.
In most continuities and storylines, Lois wouldn't do that. That was just a very bad story.
Which, guess, it may be bad, but it's canon, so I can use it. Thank you, Tom King. It's one of the most meaningful things you have contributed to DC besides all your Elseworld stuff.
Okay, what's worse, the Heroes in Crisis leak or the Bat-Cat wedding being subverted?
Heroes in Crisis League.
I would say the Bat-Cat wedding. Like, I don't care if it was editorial because you had over 15 issues building up to this.
No, because here's why, Jheat, and then we'll end because I'm tired. But here's why: because the Bat-Cat wedding thing is more localized. It only affects really Batman. This one affects her husband, Wonder Woman, everyone that she claims are her friends that she could have royally screwed. Because you know what happened? Because there's a reason why these guys keep secret identities. They could their families could be in danger. You just put their families in danger.
But Wally used the Speed Force to traverse the data stream to where they wouldn't get that. Not too much information would have gone into the leak.
No.
Wally did try to clean it up.
No. She didn't know that. My point is, she received the information, and against Clark's wishes, she just dumped it.
Okay.
Hindsight, yes, it didn't really have that effect. But I'm just saying, she didn't know that, and she still chose to do it.
Okay. I just see it as blatant character assassination for the sake of the story, but I will respect your opinion.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's my thing. And Wonder Woman would never do it, because here's how I know Wonder Woman would never do that. In the new 52 Superman and Wonder Woman thing, she was kind of struggling with the whole keeping her relationship with Clark a secret, the whole secret identity thing, but she respected Clark's wishes on it because she understood how important it was to him and how he grew up. So that's a positive relationship. Lois, on the other hand, not a positive, but anyway, this is not about that. But anyway, that's, if you want to know why I absolutely cannot stand Lois Lane, drop down Heroes in Crisis. And
the Tomasi run.
What?
The Tomasi run. Superman and Wonder Woman, the Tomasi run.
No. Well, that also, no, I'm talking about the Charles Soule run is the good run, because what happened is that you had two good volumes of Superman and Wonder Woman, and then Tomasi came on, and according to Charles Soule, them tanking and canceling the book had nothing to do with sales. It was just the new writer's preferences, because it was selling 100,000 copies. That never happens for Superman,
which was decent numbers at the time.
But I'm just saying, when has that ever? Superman writers now wish they get those numbers.
They'd be lucky to get in the 80,000 range.
Exactly. So you just self-sabotage because someone was blinded by their own freaking nostalgia. That's another reason why I don't. That's the reason why I have major problems with Peter J. Tomasi. Because not only was he antagonistic toward anyone that was pro Superman and Wonder Woman, he intentionally tanked the book. Because that's why you have a sudden relationship shift, because at the end of volume 2, they're totally fine. They're in love. They're doing stuff. Then volume 3, they're very cold to each other. But
he did redeem himself with Super Sons a few years later.
Well, I'm not saying he's a horrible writer, because Tomasi is objectively not a horrible writer. Objectively not. Because if you read his Green Lantern run, Super Sons, he's not absolutely not. I'm just saying the reason why I have the opinions I do about him is because of this. He intentionally tanked it just for his own preferences and not what the fan base clearly wanted.
I think this was a good conversation.
Yeah, no, it was, and to be a good stream conversation to have live with a panel. But we'll do that. But so, Jheat, what have you got coming on the channel?
Well, I had midterms, so. I've been behind on some things.
Those days.
But yeah, I'm definitely gonna get that Screecher review out, get some playthrough videos uploaded when I can, and hopefully I can actually make a new show out of this where we do talk about these concepts. What if DCAU continued outside of one-off anthology movies? What if who knows? I might do something for Trending Day. Who knows?
Awesome.
If I have the time.
Mm-hmm. So what I got coming out this week is a Trending Day hype up video where I take a speech from a non-DC movie, because I felt it was a really badass speech that works, and put a bunch of Snyderverse clips in there. So that'll be up on Trending Day. and then I'm reviewing Crossover by Donny Cates, which is incredible. And in terms of Under Two Capes, TBD. And we are going to do in other words, movie night this week is going to be Superman versus the Elite and Batman versus Robin. So we're going to do a double feature, essentially a double feature. Yeah. So because it never takes us that long to review each movie anyway, so it's not like it's going to like significantly expand it. Now, the one thing I will say is that when the previous one is coming on my birthday, but anyway, on that note, stay heroic, everyone, and we will see you in the next one. Excelsior!